This is playtest number 2 for release candidate 1 of Flow, a fantasy adventure board game. I've decided to focus on true solo playtesting this week, and I'll do multi-hero playtesting next week. Today I'm going to be playing with the warrior, and I'm going to be playing quest 1, Temple of Blood, and I need to stock the warning shits. I've shuffled the chanting, shuffled the scamper, so we don't know which one of these is the leader. All 10 discovery counters are shuffled and stacked on the quest card, along with 1 random power item per the instructions in the quest book. We'll go ahead and set up our stat tracker for the hero. I've decided to go with the short sword and the shield once again, and then we'll put the hero on the starting space of the entrance tile. We have our map decks set up here, and we have our monster cards. I'm gonna set the XP counter and the gold counter aside. We don't really need to tabulate XP. That was the Blue Angels. We don't really need to tabulate XP until the end of the quest. It's kind of up to you. I'm just gonna set these aside. So I think I'm gonna dive right in, and I'm gonna fly pretty fast and loose because I wanna demonstrate just how fluid the game can be if you want it to be. So the warrior can move 5 spaces. Turn 1, 2, 3, 4. Explore a side tile. Turn 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. He tries to jump over the gap. Challenge rating 8. He has an agility 5 plus 6 is 11. He easily clears the gap. Turn 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. We draw a center tile. Our warrior has entered a side passage. There's a warning that we need to roll for and a discovery item to draw. Column 5. We draw from the first row on the 5 column, snicker, and then we draw a random discovery item. So our warrior hears some snickering coming from the dark passageway. This map tile contains 2 separate map sections, the side passage, and then a portion of the inner sanctum, which cannot be accessed from the side passage because there's solid wall dividing these 2 spaces. So this is an unlit map section, and this is a lit quadrant of this inner sanctum. Snicker does not have any AI icons on the warning counter, so Snicker does nothing. It stays where it is. Our warrior is curious about the Snicker, so for our next turn, the warrior is going to enter the dark passage. He has to stop adjacent to the Snicker. The Snicker is immediately alerted, and the warrior has to burn 1 torch unit or pay cost of darkness because he's now inside a dark passage with torch icons at each entrance of the map section. He's gonna pay 1 torch unit. As he lights his torch, a feral child comes into focus. Little ones venture beyond the wall, never to be seen again, lost to the wild. So we have to see what happens when the feral child is alerted. On alert, the feral child scatters. If within line of sight of a hero, moves 5 spaces away from as many heroes as possible. So the feral child is gonna try to run from the hero, but she can only run to here because she is not allowed to run into unmapped spaces. It's a limitation of the game engine. And she can't run through the warrior. So the monster phase ends. On the next turn, our warrior is gonna move adjacent to the feral child, and he's gonna try to befriend the feral child. So during the hero activation, adjacent heroes may test knowledge at 8. On success, place the befriended feral child on the hero's card. On fail, bite. Brutalist has a knowledge of 3. 3 plus 4 is 7. So he tries to befriend the feral child, but fails. The child bites him, inflicting 1 point of health damage, and then the child runs. And the result is a natural 1. So our warrior becomes infected by the child's bite. So we place an infected counter here by the warrior so we remember to do damage. When the feral child runs, we place the feral child back on the quest card to be drawn again. We do our 1 point of health damage for the bite, and we decrement the torch one more unit since we're still in the dark passage. All right, next turn. It looks like we need to roll on the infected table, and we roll 1. So this infection causes the warrior's arm to fall off, but the infection ends. But now the warrior has a severed arm. The hero can no longer equip two-handed items or perform carry actions. So our hero now has a severed arm. Totally brutal consequence of trying to befriend a feral child. He's gonna stow his shield. Maybe he'll want it, or he can sell it in the village if he survives. But our hero is now a one-armed warrior. We draw a side tile. And we draw a discovery item. And our warrior hears and sees bubbles frothing up from the purification pool. Okay, so warning phase. Since we have a warning in play, we need to see what this icon means. We go to our icon reference. The warning alerts when a hero is within one space. Let's go to the rule book for clarification. We go to the warnings section and we look down here at bubbles. Bubbles is placed on any map tile containing the tentacles icon, and it alerts when a hero comes within one orthogonal or diagonal space of it, which is what this icon represents. So if our hero goes in any one of these spaces, the bubbles will alert and become tentacles. Our one-armed warrior is brazenly gonna go for it. 1, 2, 3, 4. We flip over this icon, it's a trap. and the tentacles are alerted. Not good, folks. Tentacles reach up from the deep, attached to the unimaginable. So let's see if there's an on alert. So there's no on alert action for the tentacles. So the tentacles will not do anything until the monster phase. But we have to roll on the trap table because our warrior has set off a trap. We roll a 6 on the Temple of Blood trap table. Cage, perform dodge, agility test 7. On fail, you are captured. So our hero manages to dodge the trap. So we will remove the trap from play and from the game. And we can see the alert action for the tentacles is lash. So we look at the definition of lash. All heroes within 2 spaces of the tentacles must test agility 7. On fail, grab. So 5 plus 3 is 8. Our warrior manages to evade the tentacles. All right, new turn. We have to decide if we want to fight these tentacles or if we want to run. Our warrior has a short sword, which is an agility weapon, single-handed, fortunately. And it's a medium weight, medium length, sharp weapon. So medium weight, medium length, sharp. He needs a 9 or greater on a combat roll to hit the tentacles. He's using an agility weapon. He has an agility of 5. So 6, 7, 8, 9. He needs a 4 or higher. He has a 50% chance of hitting these tentacles, neutralizing the threat. He really either needs to run back the way he came or he needs to fight the tentacles, because if he just moves here, he's going to be within reach. I think he's going to go ahead and fight the tentacles. So he's going to move here, and then we're going to perform a combat roll. Ooh, so he rolls a 4, plus his agility because he's using the short sword, which is an agility weapon. His agility is 5, so 4 plus 5 is 9. And he needed a 9 or higher to hit the tentacles. So the tentacles have 1 hit point, so the hero manages to sever the tentacles and neutralize the threat. The tentacles needed a 7 or less to hit the warrior, so the tentacles do no damage to the warrior. All right, well played. Now the tentacles always go back on the quest card. They can be redrawn if there's another tentacles icon that comes up during play. All right, new turn. Our hero moves. We draw a side tile. I will say in true solo mode, the turns flow pretty nicely into each other, and it almost sort of starts to feel like a real-time game engine because there's zero lag between hero movement unless there's some sort of monster AI to deal with. Our hero looks across an expansive chamber with columns orthogonally aligned in every direction. There's a warning to roll for. We roll a 3. We draw a scamper. Brutalist hears a menacing scampering sound just around the corner. Now, he does not have line of sight with the scamper, both because he's in a tile exit, and from a tile exit, you only have orthogonal line of sight. And same thing with if you're in a room, you only have orthogonal line of sight into a tile exit. Also, in rooms with columns, you only have orthogonal line of sight. So there's really zero diagonal line of sight in this room. Now, warning phase, the scamper does have an AI associated with it. It's a single black diamond. So we can see here, the warning moves 1 space towards a terminus tile. Now, there are no terminus tiles laid out in this temple yet, which means the scamper will just stay put and not move anywhere. So now it's the warrior's turn again, and he needs to decide if he is going to confront this or move along. If he moves past it, he's going to alert it, unless he tries to sneak, but the warrior has a low stealth rating, so his sneak is likely to fail. He could backtrack the other way and avoid this situation altogether, or he could confront the scamper and just fight it. And I think a single scamper is probably not a huge match for the warrior. So I think the warrior's gonna enter and fight this threat. So we alert the psycho rat. Oh man. Okay, so the star means that this is the leader. This is really not a good thing. There was only a 1/6 chance that this was gonna be the leader, but this is the leader. Ruthless gangs of rodents terrorize the underplaces, bringing pain and death. Let's check for our on alert function. On alert, if the unit has a star, we perform the Rat King action. And then here under Rat King, we can see this is the Rat King. On alert, place all 6 scamper psycho rats that come with the game on the space with the Rat King alerted. So we literally have to take all these scampers. I'm pretty sure our warrior is dead. There is a 0% chance that our warrior is going to be able to fight 6 psycho rats. He would have made very quick work of 1 psycho rat, because we can see here, sorry, we can see here that he would need a 10 or greater with his short sword. Yeah, it would have taken him a little bit of effort to hit and defeat a single psycho rat, but a single psycho rat would have had a very little chance of harming the warrior. All right, so I guess we're just gonna have to play this out now, but it's gonna be ugly. I'm positive of that. All right, so we have to do a combat roll. Ugh. All right, so 3 plus our agility of 5 is 8. The warrior needed a 10 or greater to hit the rats. The rats needed a 5 or less, plus 3 times 5 is 15. Yeah, the rats definitely hit. They do 1d3 health damage. So 1 health damage plus 1 for each additional rat, so 5 plus 1 is 6. So they do 6 health damage to the warrior. Oh, he's still alive. That's cool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Also, I just thought of something. He should not be able to eat meat if he's adjacent to a monster. These are the types of tiny little rules changes I need to make to the rules. So it doesn't do him any good to try to run, because the psycho rats will rage and move 7 spaces toward the hero each turn, and the hero can only move 5 spaces. So really they just have to battle it out now. So next combat roll is a 1, a natural 1. So the hero does no damage. The psycho rats do hit. Regardless, the psycho rat stack success. Add 1 single random scamper. Okay, so the nat 1 doesn't matter because the entire pack of rats is here already. So now we need to figure out the damage The rats do 1d3, so that's 2 damage plus 5, 7. I think that kills 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so now our warrior is incapacitated. He can't do anything because one of his vital stats is 0, and the other 2 vital stats will take 1d3 points of damage each turn. But the Psycho Rats are Ravagers, as you can see. So on the next turn, they will eat an incapacitated hero that they're adjacent to. So sadly, our warrior has met his demise. He has been ravaged by the Psycho Rats. So I thought I would do a little postmortem on this little playtest. The knee-jerk reaction to this playthrough is, wow, this game's totally random and totally unfair and way too hard. But I want to offer some perspective, and let's go through the warrior's decisions. I think the warrior made some really bad decisions, and I just want to run through them real quick. So first of all, he moved effortlessly through here and decided to jump the gap instead of fiddle with trying to find the secret passage. He has a pretty high agility, and the challenge rating on the gap wasn't that bad. His odds were very high of traversing the gap unharmed. Slight chance he would have fallen into the gap, taken a little bit of damage, but he would have climbed out, so that decision was fine. Then he moved along here, and he encountered the snickering. Now, his first mistake was approaching this feral child because he has a fairly low knowledge score, and it requires a knowledge test to befriend the feral child. But the warrior thought he would give it a shot. He had good intentions, but his attempts to befriend the feral child backfired. The child ended up biting him, which normally wouldn't be a huge deal, but he happened to get infected from the bite, and the child ran off. So he's sitting here with an infection, and then he realizes that it's turning black, and he basically loses his arm to this rabid infection from the feral child. So if he had just ignored the snickering and gone a different way, he would still have his arm. From there, he moved in to the tentacle room. He trudged right through here like any brave warrior would. Unfortunately, he set off a trap, but once again, he was able to dodge the trap, so it was not a huge deal. And he decided to take on the tentacles, which I think was smart, and he had no trouble dispatching the tentacles. He took a reasonable risk in the purification pool room and made some headway. Now, his next big mistake, when he came into the colonnaded room, he heard some scampering. Scampering can just be a pesky little rat, or it can be huge trouble. And that's a risk that, you have to take. There was a 1/6 chance that scampering was going to lead to stumbling onto the entire Rat King and all of his minions. And unfortunately, that's what happened to him. If he had stumbled onto one rat, it might have taken him a couple combat rounds, but he would have defeated the rat, and he probably wouldn't have been harmed by the rat at all. But the more rats you add to that, the harder it gets, and 6 rats is almost impossible to defeat unless you've got some comrades helping you. And so if he would have avoided some of these perilous situations, he would have lived to tell the tale. He could have gone around the other way, and he could have played all these situations more safely. Eventually, he would have had to have gotten into some scuffles. So that's how hard it is to play true solo. It was really hard, and also this warrior made some bad decisions. He lost an arm, and he was overrun by psycho rats and devoured. It may seem kind of unfair that he's unlikely to befriend the feral child just because his knowledge is not great, but the treasure chest in this quest contains a power item, and one of those power items is the power helm. And the power helm, if you're wearing it, adds 3 to any knowledge test. So there's a lot of items and situations where you can increase a hero's weakness if you get the right artifact. that's kind of the give and the take, depending on which character class you go with. Other character classes are going to have a harder time jumping over gaps, but an easier time with knowledge tests or stealth tests. So that's it for this playthrough. I hope it sheds a little bit of light on the decision space of Low, a fantasy adventure board game. I'll probably do some more speed playthroughs like this where I just kind of blast through and get my characters into situations and then kind of explain what happened and why. I think that it's probably a little more fun than slow, methodical, thorough playthroughs that last a super long time. Also, I've only really found a couple minor bugs in this playthrough, and in my first playthrough I found a couple other bugs. So far the notes that I'm taking on the game are pretty benign and very simple one-line changes in the rule book. So no game-breaking bugs yet, and that bodes well for getting this game out there in the not too distant future.